Alright, I'm not even sure where to begin with this video. I've been putting it off and putting it off, but I'm not sleeping. And if I don't make this video, I feel like I'm not going to get any sleep. Things have been a bit overwhelming for me lately, to say the least. I've been struggling just to keep from completely going under financially. My brother finally got a job, thank goodness. I had to invest quite a bit of money, just shoes and clothes and stuff he needed to actually get a job, a phone, all of that. And finally he got one. He starts this week. Unfortunately, it's going to be 3 weeks before he gets a check, and then that'll be a really small one, because it's only 20 hours for training. So it'll be 5 weeks before he gets an actual check. And that's been the easy part of it all. The hard part has been when I've been sleeping, which is what I want to talk about. Because I have dreams that have haunted me, for lack of a better word, my entire life. And when this journey began for me, when my life was literally shredded apart 3 times really fast till I got the hint, I began having dreams about volcanoes on the West Coast. This has been a decade ago. There are actually videos on my channel about it. About me having these 3 teepees, these 3 boom, boom, boom. Well, it's boom, boom, a pause, and a third boom. And it was on the West Coast. And I'm having more dreams like that. Generally, my dreams repeat themselves verbatim over a period of years. But this one was not a repeat. It's kind of weird, but I've been going to sleep and I'm having this dream, and it's disturbing. It wakes me up. And when I go back to sleep, I'm not having the same dream. It's picking up where it left off. It's like watching a freaking movie, and it's unnerving me. I have a big, overwhelming sense that I need to share this dream, or possibly vision. But I don't want to, because it is disturbing. And I know it'll trigger a lot of people. And it will drop you into the lower chakras, which is fear. And which is the last place you need to be. I am quite aware that we all need to return to be as children. We're full of innocence and wonder and trust, and we don't worry about the big things in the world. You leave unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Give unto God what is God's. And when you have the heart and mind of a child with what's coming, you can walk through fire and it'll feel like snow. This I'm sure of, that as long as we stay in a place of love, when you don't fall into the hate, fall into the fear, fall into the division, because that's what it's all designed to do. Everything is a lie. And I do mean everything. We've been lied to long before our births, long before our parents were born, long before our grandparents were born. Everything. Our history is a lie. Our education is a lie. Our science is a lie. Everything. I keep telling you, there are no countries. There are no presidents. There are no elected officials. Everything is staged. it's just not real. And it's bigger than that. It's almost like a dream within a dream within a dream. Because I know this has all happened before. I don't even question that fact. To me, it is fact. This has all happened before. We've all done this before. And it's almost like somebody wrote a book, and then somebody got it and made a screen script out of it, a play. And then somebody took that and wrote a movie script out of it. And we're all the actors in this. We've all read the book. Now we're just acting the part. But it's not real. We are not the characters that we're playing. All the world's a stage and we're merely players. There's a lot more to that saying. I don't know why nobody ever finishes it. So I'm struggling right now. I'm really struggling on whether or not I share this with you guys. Can you hear what I have to say without freaking out, falling into fear? Because it is scary. And there's plenty enough scary out there in the world. You just look on your phone, your internet, the TV, the radio, your neighborhoods, your communities, your cities, your newspapers. It's all just lower chakra. Do I really need to add to that? I mean, I think it's obvious the world's falling apart. I think a lot of people in America, because you do believe in country and patriotism and nationalism and all of that, and voting that make America great again. I mean, if you knew what I knew, you would just see that just none of that is real. It's part of the lie. Because there never was such a thing as the American dream. It was truly the American lie is what it was. And it remains so. And people just want to go back to sleep. They don't want the truth. We're in a wake-up stage. And half the world is insane. And the other half just wants to go back to sleep. It just wants to go back to the way it was. You just want a good job, enough to keep a roof over your head and just survive. There's no thriving. There's no living. The struggle is that hard for everyone. And it's part of the test. We've all been educated, especially over the last 2 decades. Since the turn of the century, we've all been put through the ringer. Emotionally, financially, spiritually, psychologically. It has been a testing of our souls, in a way. It's been an education. We've had time to learn. We've done the dance of the 7 veils, and we see now. But after you learn the subject, it's time to get tested. And I feel like that's where we're at now. We've gone through a few of what I call pop quizzes, right? Trial runs. But the big exam is coming up. And not everybody will graduate. This is not an easy class to graduate from. But we will be tested. The whole world. The whole world. And I know I'm talking to people all over the world. I have people on every continent except for Antarctica that I know of. There might be some down there. What is it? McMurdo or whatever base is down there. Anyway, I'm struggling whether or not to tell you this. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys of whether or not you want to hear this. So on this video, just leave it in the comments, I guess, whether or not you want to hear what I gotta say, what's happening to me. Some of it I'm willing to share, and I'll give you that much now. But as far as the extremely disturbing part, I'm gonna hold that back. A lot of what I'm getting, ironically enough, it's a lot of things tied in together, but it has to do with the original volcano dream I had. I'm kind of being shown now that the first volcano that will go off which is what's going to happen here in America. It's going to be Mount Shasta. It's my understanding it's what is considered a dormant, asleep volcano. This is the first one to wake up. There'll be 3, all on the West Coast. The first one is Mount Shasta. When the first one goes off, it's going to cause an earthquake on the West Coast. And I guess for America, it's kind of a go signal. Because it's going to be huge. What's going to happen is going to devastate the United States. There's going to be wars. The earthquake is going to happen here. It's going to crash instantly. Crash, wipe out Wall Street. It's going to reverberate from one coast to the other, because it's going to devastate New York because of Wall Street. It's going to, you know how you take a rug and you want to take it outside and you shake it, or even a sheet, and how it kind of rolls when you take one end and you shake it, it makes like a wave. That's what's going to happen from the West Coast across. It's going to literally buckle the Rockies. The devastation on the West Coast, I'm not even going to talk about that in this video. But it's going to trigger, because the United States is going to be debilitated. Let's put it that way. It's going to give a lot of other countries, they're going to get brave. They're going to get brave. And they're going to start attacking each other. And it's going to start, ironically enough, around Constantinople. And in the 3rd or 4th part of this continuing drama of a dream, I was taken over to that part of the world, Constantinople, Istanbul, whatever. Today it's Istanbul. I think it's always been Constantinople to me. And that part, up from there, Turkey, Greece, up through the Caucasus, there's going to be a big change in Turkey. And to me, that's where it's really going to get ugly. That's where the ugly's going to start, is in Turkey. And in my dream, I kept seeing flashes or little scenes, literally, from iPet Go 2. And there's one scene in iPet Go 2 where you see the whirling dervish, and he's coming up, and he's floating up into the night sky towards the moon. And when I first saw that, I always understand that it's like Sufism, with the whirling dervish. It's the mystic part of Islam, and I understood it to be like Sufism rising, right? It were this religious, mystical, we're going to see that part of Islam come to the front. But in my dream, that wasn't the interpretation that I got. As a matter of fact, it was just the opposite. Those were like not Sufism rising, but ascending, being destroyed, being just wiped out. That literally the greatest destruction. There was so much destruction, but Turkey is going to get hit hard. Now, I'm under the assumption, this is speculation on my part, but because of this Mars retrograde that we're in for quite a bit longer here, we got a little bit longer with this going on, with this Mars in retrograde, that Turkey makes the first move. And because of that Mars retrograde, again, assumption on my part, not part of the dream, that they lose. They lose because they're going to make the first move. And the loss is complete. Completely. There won't be a Turkey anymore. There's a lot of countries that are just not going to be anymore. Nations will always be, as long as this timeline is here. I guess that's something else I should speak on too, because I was also quite aware in this sequence, dream sequence, that this is a timeline. You know, and I've heard this before. You hear near-death experiences, or people that have visions, or angels and this, and they'll tell them that, even like Nostradamus and seers, they'll tell you, Edgar Casey, I tell you this because it's not written in stone. The future can be changed, right? Actually, that's truth and not truth, because that timeline is going to run, whether I walk in it or you walk in it or not. Somebody's going to go through this timeline. And I guess that's my whole point of staying in the upper chakras, is because you're creating your own timeline. And this timeline's going to run out. And we all have to jump into another timeline, another life, another body, another future, another sequence of events, just jumping off a very similar timeline to this one. But this timeline's coming to an end. You even hear this statement in the Bible and other religious texts that, and then time is no more. It's almost like saying Saturn is no more. But I guess the proper pronunciation for that is, and this timeline that they're speaking of is no more. His story comes to an end. There's so much deception. I think that's the scariest part. It becomes easy when you understand every freaking thing is a lie. If you really want truth, and I mean your truth, what applies to you, there are places to look. You can look up, or you can look within. And matter of fact, I advise both, because as above, so below, as without, so within. So you look up and tell me what you see, and then you look in and you tell me what you see, and those two need to match. Those two need to match. They are your two witnesses, is within and above. They can change the words of those books. They can change anything and everything. Like the deja vu in the Matrix. They can change everything. But they can't change the stars. And they can't change the door within you. They can't walk through it. Only you can. It's personal to you. They're your chakras. It's your body. You inhabit it. I know a lot of people are sharing their bodies with all kind of spirits and demons, and they're not even aware of it. The illusion in America is so thick. It's more thick than other countries. Because we became apathetic as a nation. And the American dream and materialism and entertainment. I think that's been the worst, is the entertainment. The dumbing down in the education system. You know, growing up, I used to think my parents are not very smart. I knew my sister really struggled in school, my older sister. Now myself, I excelled. It was just easy for me. I watched other students struggle, and then I would hear my mom tell me, you kids today are just dumb. Y'all are not learning anything in school. And I didn't understand that. I thought she must be joking. We know so much more now. And no, we've just been lied to a lot more. We don't know shit. We know nothing. The best thing I ever done for myself was give myself a liberal arts education. And then learning alchemy and what I consider the third astrology. Because I still don't understand astrology and the prognostication and how you come to the conclusion is that's what that means. I understand the elements and the energies, and I understand that's alchemy. I understand what that means, and I understand how it applies to the zodiac, and I understand how that applies to us personally in the chakras of our very own bodies. But I don't understand a lot of the prognostication of solar or lunar astrology. I don't dismiss either one. I just don't know the material. I do understand that lunar astrology is your day-to-day life. It's considered mundane astrology because it goes around the clockwise. It goes around the zodiac what we call clockwise. But solar astrology is completely different. It runs counterclockwise. There are two stories in the zodiac. One is told clockwise. The other is told counterclockwise. And they couldn't be more different. One tells the story of ages. The other one are in the heavens. The other one tells the story of days and us. But I also know that the solar astrology we have has some big problems because its timeline is off. That's something else I actually do want to do while I have y'all here on this video, because I got so many questions about it. So I'm going to try to answer a few of those right now, and then I'll finish up a little bit more with some of the dream I had that pertains to timelines. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to try to simplify this as much as I can so everybody can understand. In this circle is everything. And I do mean everything. Everything that what is, what was, and what will be. So, in a way, I do get that prognostication is possible. It's not just possible, it's definite. But I don't understand astrology because I don't know how they come to the conclusions. I need to understand why, or it just don't jive with me. Explain to me why a rising sign in a certain nakshatra affects me that way. And I'm just supposed to accept that what you tell me is true. Well, why does it? And I have yet to find an astrologer that can tell me that. Well, that's just the way we learn it. Well, that's just the way we was taught it. Well, I've learned that everything I've ever learned's been a damn lie. So you need to tell me why. Well, that's something this circle has done for me. If it is one of my witnesses, I can go to the Bible or I can go to this circle, and it needs to jibe with both of them. Not just one of them, both of them needs to confirm it to me. And then I confirm it with my heart. But this circle tells us everything. Like we are in Pisces. This is the age we're in because this is where the sun rises in the spring equinox. East is up, not north. East is up. The rising sun rises in the east and it goes up from the east. Here, let me get something to write with. So that's why the numbers 321, and which is the spring equinox, and then 322. Now my problem with solar astrology, which is where, I'm going to explain this to you because all your questions were about the mud flood and the timeline, was where they went wrong. Why solar astrology is wrong. Because I used to think it was the Julian calendar that did this, but I'm beginning to understand it's probably more the Gregorian. I'm 25% Julian, 75% Gregorian calendar where this actually was implemented, but it has to do with leap year, which brings in the number 322, which is skull and bones. Because they locked the wheel. And it appears that when they created the Bible as we know it, when they created the Greek Septuagint, not the Bible as we know it, the Greek Septuagint, Church of Nicaea, and they transcripted the book of Revelations. They locked the calendar with a, then I would say, the calendar started at, instead of 322, the spring equinox was 301. Okay, it was the 1st of March. Actually, it was the last day of March because the timeline runs backwards. This can be confusing. When we leave the age of Aries and came into Pisces, that's the year, they tell us that that's the year of our Lord. And year one, right? Year one is they're telling us that this happened here. Well, right now, we're only right here. So, right now, the spring equinox rises right here. That's only 20 degrees. That's 1,440 years from the beginning of Pisces to now. So either Christ was born way back here at 20 degrees Aries, going this way it would be 10 degrees Aries for mundane, 20 degrees for solar, which we're talking solar because we move through the timeline this way in solar. It's the long count calendar. You move 72 years for 1 degrees. So 20 times 72 years is 1,440 years, which is 20 degrees Pisces, which would be 320, right? Now we're at 321, so we can add 72 years to that. And then we'll be, if we're what they're doing, especially showing us 322, that we can add another 72 years to that, because in our, at least close to my lifetime, we've moved 1 degree. So that's going to bring us to another 144 added to that. So you get the 4, the 8, the 5, and the 1. This is the maximum of what our date is right now. This is the minimum, 1440, and this is the maximum, 1584, from the beginning of Pisces. To get over here to Aquarius, Pisces, every age is 2,160 years. Every 10 degrees is 720 years. And that's the way this thing works. So our timeline is off. Now what they did back here, 300, let's divide this one in a third, which is about right here in Pisces. If they did it right, Church of Nicaea, they locked the clock with leap year so that it always falls on the same day. This clock is supposed to turn every 4 years, another day. And we just add a day. Instead of letting the wheel turn, we add a day so it stays where it's at. We're locked in time. We're in a time loop. We're in a time lock. We're in a time warp. And now, because of that, solar astrology is off by 23.5 degrees. Fixing to be 24.5 or 25 even. And I call it the Leaning Tower of Pisa. In Freemasonry, that solar pillar is leaning. It's not straight up and down. It's leaning because they've locked the wheel. They won't let it turn. Mundane, it just spins round and round and round. But for some reason, they have us locked right here. Right there. At 300 AD. So, every 72 years, this pillar leans another degree. And it can only go to, check this out, 33 degrees, and it's going to fall over. Well, 33 degrees would throw us into Aquarius, because each constellation is only 30. It's only 30 degrees. So, if we look at the stars to tell us, what time is it? If we are at 20 degrees Pisces, it is 1440. If we are at 22 degrees of Pisces, it's 1584. In the year of Pisces, not the year of our Lord, the year of Pisces. And this This wheel tells us everything. Now, let me erase this. Noah's flood. Noah's flood happened right here. How do we know that? Because the symbols in the alchemy tell us it does. Number one, this is cardinal water. Well, let's back up. Let's back up to Leo. Because we're told this story about Babylon. There was a Babylon before the flood. The Babylon after the flood is a resurrected Babylon. But it had to do with the sun worshippers right here in Leo. And the moon worshippers here in Cancer. And you can just look at what they call Antiquitech to realize that they were a lot more advanced technologically than we are today. So, and they spoke one language. You're looking at that language. Alchemy and astrology was the language. It's a symbolic language. It's an alchemical language. The whole world spoke it. The hieroglyphs, the petroglyphs, all of it, everywhere, it's all the same thing. Throughout time, throughout the ages, it has not changed. The Aleph symbol will always mean air and earth, and the triangle will always be water and fire, whether it's pointed up or down, no matter where you go. No matter how far you dig down, when you find those symbols anywhere in the world, they always mean the same thing. And they're everywhere. And it was from these two ages. So the flood came at the end of cardinal water flood. And because the first symbol in Gemini is a rainbow. And that's the first sign, symbol, image, icon, logo that was given to Noah. You have the dove and the rainbow, which they perverted the hell out of. So we know that the flood happened here. And from the tales of the other mythos, we also know that it's destroyed once with water and then with fire. So right here, when we changed over from Pisces to Aries, there's a story missing. And it don't have anything to do with the Jesus story or the Bible story. There's a whole story missing about a great fire. Now, right here in Aries, right about here in the first 10 degrees, in this first 10 degrees of Aries, above the zodiac right here is a star called Algol. We know it as the head of Medusa. It turns the Kraken to stone. The Kraken. The Kraken is Leviathan that runs through both of these, right below the zodiac in the heavens. Leviathan runs both ages, from Aries through Pisces. And this is the Kraken, Leviathan, that is turned to stone by Algol, the head of Medusa. And literally, you know, in the Arabic it's called the ghoul, or the ghost. A ghoul today we would even reference as a zombie. So there's a connection between the fire of Aries, turning shit to stone, which is all over this planet. I think, to me, that's far more impressive than even what's called mud flood, or even if you want to call it liquefaction. But to me, that doesn't seem right, because these buildings are still level, to where if it was a liquefaction, they would be all crooked and shit. A mud flood's just going to leave the foundation where it is and bury on top of it. But I've always wondered that about astrology, even when I was a little girl. This is what would go through my mind. Well, they would dig this up, and that's thousands of years old, and this is thousands of years old if you go deeper. And I'm like, where is all this dirt coming from? Well, it's dust. Okay, it's dust. Well, if there's only so much dust, if it's covering something up here, then it's uncovering something somewhere else. So, because there's only so much dust. I understand completely we're in a closed construct. Nothing is ever added, nothing is ever gained. You can't lose it. Nothing can be added and nothing can be gained. It's only transmuted from one state of being to another, from one state of matter to another, from one state of energy to another, from one frequency to another, because energy cannot be destroyed. And everything here is frequency and energy. So, it's all here. So we're being lied to. So if our Lord was born 2,000 years ago, he was born here in the age of Aries at 20 degrees Aries. So none of it makes sense. And you know, here's our spring. Let me put up our spring equinox again. This is our spring equinox. This is day 1. That's 322 or 321, depending on the lying leap year. That should be the new year. It should be 0101. Speaking of binary, 0101. Somebody said that to me when I said there's no such thing as duality. There's no such thing as a singularity, because all things come in threes. I'm convinced of that now. And they said, well, what about binary? Binary's not 2, because you have a 0 and a 1, but then you also have the space in between them, which is the third part. The space in between them, the gap, which is always important, the gap, the space in between the ages. The space in between the ages, now that's interesting, because it takes 3 degrees. And 3 times 72, how many years? 216 years to move 3 degrees. It takes 2160 to move 30 degrees. 21,600 to move 10 ages or 300 degrees. Which is how long this mess has been going on. The mess started right here. It started right here. When we came out of cardinal Earth and moved into Sagittarius. The last true, this is what our timeline calls a golden age, right? Like in India and all that, when they talk about the golden age, and everybody else, when they talk about the golden age, it's always talking about Leo into Cancer. This was the golden age, sun. The sun symbol is gold. But when we get over here, this is the true golden age. Because in that day, which is Aquarius, Capricorn, both ruled by Saturn, not Uranus. Uranus has no part in alchemy. Well, it does. It's just not in the physical realm. You'll have no need of the sun or the moon. You'll have no need of Leo and Cancer, for I am with you here. Now, I want to talk about Nebuchadnezzar's statue. That statue with the head of gold and the arms and breastplate of silver. The head, here, let me get it back. Nebuchadnezzar, this is going all the way back to this timeline. A head of gold, ruled by the sun. Arms and breastplate of silver. Then you get the bronze, which would be Taurus. And then you get the iron, which would be Aries, Mars. And then that iron gets mixed with clay, which is Virgo. Virgo. You know, when they tell you bronze is not really Taurus. Taurus is copper. So it's an amalgamation of 2, which is copper and tin, which is ruled by Sagittarius. Now, what's missing here? There is no lead, and there is no Saturn. There's no Saturn in Nebuchadnezzar's statue. There's no lead. There's no Saturn. But they war with God, and if God is time, they're warring with time. That's why they hold the clock. We don't even know what time it is. So, there's a lot about... Okay, I'm going to jump back to my dream thing again, because a lot of people are worried about this Antichrist thing. Now, myself, I think we're at the end. Maybe not the end of the age, but the end of this timeline. Because of a lot of factors, really. Because of the deception. Because this is a time of deception. Like never before. Ever, ever, ever. Anywhere in the history of mankind, there has never been a deception like what's being played out right now. On every level. And that only happens one time. And that's when evil comes to a full. When evil comes to a full. When wickedness rules. And right now, wickedness and evil is in charge of everything. Every CEO, every president, everybody with even the most minute amount of authority is compromised, sold out, and just wicked, just evil. I guess that's why I think it's so important that we do remain in the upper chakras and we remain as children. We are naive. We have been deceived. It is deception. We have been lied to and we have been deceived. But what's happened is before we woke up, it's so big that if enough of us don't wake up or don't hold our ground in the upper chakras, that the outcome is not good. There's no way we can win this battle. There's nothing we can do. It doesn't matter how much they tell us, how much they reveal to us. What are you going to do about it? Okay, we know what they're going to do. We see the false flags. We see the plans. We see their timeline. They're telling us what they're going to do. They're telling us they're going to gin pop all of us. Just get rid of the gin pop. And what are we going to do about it? Nothing. Because we can't. And we're not supposed to. It never was our fight. It never was our fight. We cannot even save ourselves, much less save this world. And I think that's kind of the whole point. When the deception, which is obviously what we're in, there's only one outcome, and that was divine intervention. So, but at the same time, these masters of illusion are playing out these timelines. They're creating, let me rephrase that. They're recreating what they did last time. Right over here. They're creating what they did last time. In the destruction of water and in the destruction of fire. And they've told everybody a different lie. And they're going to play out the timeline for every culture. Buddha's coming for India. Maitreya's coming. Muhammad's coming. Jesus is coming. They're all coming. The Antichrist is coming. They're going to play it out for everybody. But it's all going to be one thing. They're going to tie it all in together into one thing. Because this is what they did before. And they're going to tie it all into one guy that we seem to refer to in our fairy tale as the Antichrist. Well, I had part of that in this dream. And what I saw is definitely not what people are expecting. But there's going to be war. They're fixing to tear civilization down. Now you understand why they call them the builders, why they're called Masons, because that's what they do. They rise and fall civilizations. This has been going on for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, this goes all the way back to before the golden age of Leo. It goes back to Virgo. It goes all the way back to the age of Virgo when this was established, what we call builders or Masons. And they spent the age of Virgo, Leo, and Cancer building all this antiquity that we're finding everywhere. And then a lot of it was doused in the flood. And then a lot of it was melted over here in Aries. But now we're in the abyss. Pisces, mutable water. We are in the abyss. We are dead in the water. You know, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Everybody talks about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The Tibetan Book of the Dead clearly tells you that we are dead. That's why you have to be born again. Because to be born into the flesh is literally death. You have to be born out of flesh. And you do that with like an out-of-body, or a near-death experience, or a third eye experience. This is how this happens. But I seen this Maitreya Buddha thing go down. And it does not happen. One, it's not Donald Trump. Matter of fact, it's not anybody that's on the scene at this moment. This character doesn't come till after all the wars, after the depopulation. That's when he comes home. And everybody that's left after they do their little snuff film, that's what they're going to do. They're going to pull him out then. It's going to be Jesus to some, Maitreya to the others, a Jewish king to those people, Muhammad or whoever they're expecting. Yeah, all that, Mahdi. Yeah, all of it's coming. All the same person. All the same person. But that's not now. That's not now. Very well likely, like what was discussed before the first eclipse was going down. 8 years ago now. When was that? 2016? Something like that. 2016, 2017. The first eclipse here in America. It's real clear that what they've been telling us and showing us, preparing us, this is just one huge psyop, really. One huge psyop. I got a Kelly problem. Hold on. Sorry about that. Kelly is being a handful right now. So I'm going to stop this video here. And I will try to pick up exactly where I left off on, we'll just call it a part 2, with the first eclipse here in the United States. And I need to go deal with Kelly. And then hopefully, now that I have started at least talking about what I'm dreaming about lately, that I can get some sleep this time, because I'm very exhausted and I've just been working myself into the ground. Alright, people, you know what to do. Commit your random acts of kindness. Stay in your upper chakras. Don't let the fear, porn, and propaganda get to you. None of this is real. It just isn't. And as long as we love one another in sincerity, and especially those acts of kindness, they really need to be coming from a place of love and compassion and unconditional love. Don't put conditions on it, because that's not love. Love is unconditional. It's no matter what. And the only place that can exist in this whole God-forsaken age is within us. It's through us. Alright, people. I'll try to be back as soon as I can.